The room shook with Ethan's shout, his voice cutting through the air like shattered glass. I froze, my chest pounding, as his words echoed, "You were never my friend." The taste of betrayal was sharp, bitter, undeniable. My throat tightened, memories flashing. Nights of laughter, secrets whispered under starlight. Promises etched into the silence of our youth. Liam stood there, eyes cold, and for the first time I realized the warmth I once trusted had been a mask. I whispered, "Why would you say that?" But my voice trembled with fear more than anger. He smiled faintly, not with kindness, but with the cruelty of someone who had waited too long to tear me apart. My body shook as the betrayal spread like fire through my veins, and I felt every shared moment twisting into something darker, uglier. In that instant, the friendship I believed would outlast the years collapsed, leaving only ashes. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but all I could do was stare into the hollow eyes of the boy who once called me his only friend. Silence stretched thin, louder than any scream, and my heartbeat thundered in my ears. I remembered the nights Liam and I ran through empty streets, laughing until dawn, vowing we'd never abandon each other. Ethan said, "You can't mean this." But his voice faltered under the weight of disbelief. Liam's stare held no warmth, no trace of the boy who once pulled him out of storms, who once called him brother. The room smelled of rain, wet earth, drifting in from the cracked window, and it pressed against Ethan like a memory of every promise now broken. I wanted to hold on to hope, to pretend this was anger speaking. But in Liam's silence, I saw the truth. Trust had fractured, splintered beyond repair. The air between us felt like glass, sharp and fragile, ready to shatter further with a single word. Ethan thought if I breathe wrong, everything ends, yet deep down, he knew everything already had. The tension coiled tighter, suffocating the room, and Ethan's chest ached with unspoken questions. He whispered, "What did I do?" But the words cracked like dry wood. Liam turned slightly, the corner of his lips twitching, but no answer came. In that silence, Ethan replayed every moment. The late-night drives, the shared confessions, the reckless laughter that once made them invincible. He wanted to believe loyalty still lingered, but the coldness in Liam's eyes told another story. The thunder outside roared, rattling glass panes, as though the storm mocked the collapse within. Ethan's hands shook, his heart torn between fighting for the bond or surrendering to its death. Every breath felt stolen, every second heavier than the last, as betrayal bled into certainty. Lightning flared, casting jagged shadows, and Ethan saw Liam's face carved in stone, unyielding. Ethan said, "You were lying to me." But deep inside he already knew the truth was worse. Liam gave nothing back, not a word, not a blink, only silence sharpened like a blade. Memories crowded Ethan's mind, Liam's hand steadying his after heartbreak, laughter spilling over broken nights, whispered promises that tomorrow would be brighter. Now those moments felt stolen, cruelly rewritten into something hollow. The room groaned with the storm, the air thick with dread. Ethan's breath came uneven, carrying the weight of finality, and he felt the world tilting beneath his feet, everything familiar collapsing into doubt. Ethan's chest rose and fell like he was drowning, words clawing at his throat. He whispered, "Tell me it's not true." Liam stood unmoved, the weight of betrayal pressing heavier than the storm outside. Rain lashed the window, and thunder cracked, yet the silence between them was louder. Ethan remembered the night Liam swore, "You're my only brother," and the memory felt like poison now. Every shared glance, every trusted secret twisted into venom. Ethan's voice broke as he said, "You promised." His eyes searched desperately for a crack in Liam's mask, but he found only emptiness. The friendship that once anchored his world now felt like chains dragging him under. Betrayal had come not with fire but with silence, and it burned deeper than any scream. The storm faded into memory, but Ethan could not escape the echo of Liam's words. He found himself staring at an old photograph on his desk, taken years ago when both of them stood grinning after their first college game. Ethan said, "We promised nothing could break us." His voice wavered, softer than he intended. He remembered the summer nights when they rode bicycles until sunrise, their laughter floating into empty streets. Back then, trust was not questioned. It was the air they breathed. Liam had once said, "You're my only brother." That memory stung now, but still burned with warmth he longed to hold on to. Ethan's chest ached as he thought about how simple everything once felt, how forever seemed possible. He whispered, "Why did it have to end like this?" The question had no answer, only silence that reminded him of how far they had fallen. Ethan closed his eyes, and the memories unfolded like film reels. He saw Liam sprinting ahead of him down a suburban street, both of them breathless from laughter. The air smelled of freshly cut grass, and the sun dipped low, painting the sky in orange fire. Ethan had called out, "Don't leave me behind," and Liam turned with a grin that said he never would. Those days felt eternal, stitched together with promises and youthful certainty. Ethan whispered now, "It was always us." His chest tightened with longing for a time when loyalty meant everything. The betrayal of the present twisted sharper because of how deep that bond once ran. He could almost hear their laughter echoing against the walls of his empty room, mocking him with everything they once were, and would never be again. On another memory, Ethan sat beside Liam under the glow of a street lamp, their bikes resting nearby. Liam whispered, "You'll always be my brother," and the weight of those words once felt unbreakable. Ethan remembered nodding, overwhelmed by the sincerity in his friend's eyes. Now, that promise rang hollow, twisted by betrayal. Ethan said aloud to the empty room, "You meant it then, didn't you?" His voice cracked, part plea, part disbelief. He wanted to believe that those moments had been real, that Liam's love for their friendship had not always been a mask. But the more he replayed the memory, the more doubt ate at its edges. The street lamp's glow in his memory flickered, and Ethan realized that even then shadows had been present, waiting to claim what was most sacred. The bond they had once shared was stitched through milestones, their first heartbreaks, their first victories, their first secrets trusted to no one else. Ethan remembered how Liam had sat with him on a rooftop the night his father left, offering silent company until the dawn broke. Ethan whispered to the empty air, "You were there when no one else was." His voice was heavy with sorrow. In the past, Liam's presence had been a shield against loneliness, proof that some connections were unshakable. Now that same presence felt poisoned. Ethan felt tears pressing against his eyes as he recalled how that rooftop had once been their kingdom, a place where two boys promised never to abandon each other. Betrayal turned those promises into ghosts. Every recollection became both comfort and torture. Ethan pressed his forehead against the window pane, watching raindrops race downward. His reflection stared back, layered with ghosts of laughter and promises. He whispered, "We were unstoppable once." He remembered Liam catching his arm before a reckless leap into a lake, laughing, "Not without me." That moment had felt eternal, two lives bound by fearless trust. Ethan's breath fogged the glass as he muttered, "You betrayed us both." The ache in his chest deepened, as though each memory turned against him, proof of how much had been lost. What once was sacred now burned him, and the love that had anchored him now pulled him under waves of grief. Ethan noticed the changes first in small ways. Liam stopped answering calls, messages left unseen for days. Ethan said, "You're avoiding me," when they finally crossed paths outside the cafe they once claimed as theirs. Liam only shrugged, eyes drifting elsewhere, as if Ethan was background noise. The sting came not from words, but the silence that followed. Ethan's chest tightened as he remembered countless nights sitting at those very tables, sharing secrets and cheap coffee, their laughter spilling past closing hours. Now Liam sat apart, body turned away, every gesture heavy with indifference. Ethan whispered, "What did I do?" The question carried both desperation and fear. But Liam gave no answer. Each glance, each silence, each missed moment was another crack forming in something Ethan once believed unbreakable. The cafe that had once been their refuge now felt foreign. Ethan sat alone at their old corner table, tracing his finger across carved initials they had etched into the wood years ago. Liam walked in late, his phone in hand, eyes glued to the screen instead of Ethan. Ethan forced a smile and said, "We used to come here every night." Liam looked up briefly, smirk faint and empty, before muttering, "Things changed." The words struck harder than a shout. Ethan remembered nights they planned futures together, dreaming of success, swearing to stand by one another through everything. Now, Liam scrolled idly, detached as if those nights never mattered. Ethan felt the hollowness spreading, realizing the bond was slipping from his hands no matter how hard he tried to hold on. The excuses began piling up like stones. When Ethan invited Liam to join their old group of friends, Liam muttered, "I'm busy," and slipped away without explanation. Ethan said, "You never used to miss out," but his voice cracked, hope draining with each word. Liam's absence was louder than presence. Every empty chair told a story of growing distance. Ethan tried to convince himself it was temporary, just stress, just life pulling them apart. But deep down he felt the deliberate nature of Liam's withdrawal. Each unanswered call, each cancelled plan, each excuse cut deeper. The once inseparable bond was now a fraying rope, each thread snapping under the weight of betrayal, not yet spoken, but already felt. It wasn't just absence that hurt, but the new presence Ethan couldn't ignore. Liam now laughed with others, filling his days with people Ethan barely knew. Ethan stood in the background one afternoon, watching Liam lean close to new friends, his smile wide, his tone easy, as though their bond never existed. Ethan said softly, "You promised it was forever." The words slipped past lips no one heard. He felt invisible, a ghost in a friendship he had once built stone by stone. Every laugh Liam shared with others sounded like betrayal, every glance toward them a reminder that Ethan had been replaced. The hollow ache in his chest grew heavier, an anchor pulling him down with each realization. The final crack came when Ethan overheard what was never meant for his ears. Liam stood at the bar with others, his voice carrying through the noise. He said, "He's too much sometimes, I just keep him around." The words landed like knives, slicing through years of trust. Ethan's heart thudded, hands cold as ice, and he fought back the urge to confront right there. Instead, he stood frozen, replaying every memory through this new, cruel lens. The secrets, the laughter, the promises, all poisoned by Liam's casual dismissal. Ethan whispered under his breath, "I was never your friend, just your convenience." The pain was unbearable, heavier than silence, deeper than rage. In that moment, Ethan knew the unraveling was no longer subtle, it was complete. The truth revealed itself not in whispers, but in the sharp sting of words Ethan was never meant to hear. He stood hidden behind the half-open door of the library hall, listening to Liam's voice spill out, smooth and calculated. Liam said, "She trusts him too much, and that makes it easier for me." Ethan froze, his mind racing. The she was Claire, the girl Ethan had quietly cared for, the girl he believed Liam supported him with. The betrayal sharpened in that instant, twisting everything into cruel irony. Ethan's hands shook as he pressed against the doorframe, the weight of realization collapsing onto him. Every encouragement Liam once gave now sounded like a rehearsed performance, every smile tainted by selfish motives. Ethan whispered, "You knew," though no one could hear. His heart fractured, each beat echoing the knife Liam had buried in his back. Ethan staggered backward into the hallway, his mind spinning. The sound of Liam's voice replayed, mocking him. Claire had been the anchor in his heart, someone whose smile made the storm bearable. Ethan recalled how he once told Liam, "I think she's the one." Liam had clapped his back then, saying, "You've got my support." The memory now felt poisoned. Ethan pressed his forehead against the cold wall, whispering, "You stole her trust." His stomach twisted as he realized Liam had been weaving threads of betrayal long before Ethan had seen the cracks. What hurt most was not just the theft of love, but the weaponization of Ethan's vulnerability. It wasn't chance, it was deliberate. The friendship was not crumbling on its own. It had been dismantled, piece by piece, by the very person Ethan had called brother. The following day, Ethan confronted the silence of truth in his own room, staring at the old photographs scattered on his desk. He whispered, "Every smile was a lie." His chest burned with a rage he had never known. The betrayal was not an accident, not a mistake, but a strategy. Liam had listened, learned, and taken what mattered most, not because he needed it, but because he could. Ethan remembered Claire's laugh when they all studied together, how Liam always seemed to sit just close enough, to linger just long enough. He had ignored it, blinded by trust. Now the truth screamed at him through every memory. Ethan clenched his fists and muttered, "You used me." The weight of betrayal crushed him, but beneath it, a spark of defiance flickered, fragile but alive. Ethan couldn't avoid Claire forever. He met her in the park where autumn leaves swirled under gray skies. She smiled softly, unaware of the storm he carried. Ethan said, "Did Liam ever tell you what I said about you?" Claire tilted her head, confusion softening her expression. Her silence was answer enough. She had not known. Ethan's heart twisted as he realized Liam had hidden the truth, twisting it for his own gain. Claire's voice broke through, gentle but uncertain. "Is something wrong?" Ethan swallowed the scream in his throat, unable to shatter her innocence with the weight of betrayal. He only whispered, "I thought I could trust him." Her eyes softened, but she said nothing, her silence both comfort and knife. The world felt colder than the autumn wind, and Ethan's chest hollowed with grief. The confrontation could no longer be avoided. Ethan found Liam in the old basketball court, where they once played until nightfall. Liam bounced the ball lazily, smirk curling as if he already knew what Ethan had discovered. Ethan's voice cracked with fury as he said, "You betrayed me." The words hung heavier than thunder. Liam dribbled once, then let the ball roll away, eyes narrowing. He said, "You always made it too easy." The cruelty in his tone burned hotter than any denial. Ethan felt his chest splinter, rage boiling with every heartbeat. Memories of laughter, promises, brotherhood collapsed in the hollow echo of that smirk. Ethan whispered, "I trusted you more than anyone." The night air trembled with the weight of their shattered bond. The court that once held joy now poisoned by betrayal. The storm within Ethan finally broke. He stood across from Liam on the basketball court, chest heaving, fists trembling. Ethan shouted, "You destroyed everything." His voice cracked, raw with pain. Liam smirked, unfazed, replying, "You were too blind to see what I wanted." The words cut deeper than any blade. Ethan's throat burned with every breath as memories crashed. Their promises, their laughter, their brotherhood. Rage surged through him, but beneath it lay grief so heavy, it bent his shoulders. He whispered, "You were all I had." Liam's expression twisted, part mockery, part indifference, and the silence that followed felt like the final coffin nail. The court echoed with unspoken violence, the sound of two souls tearing apart forever. Ethan's anger exploded as he stepped forward, voice breaking into a roar. "You called me your only friend." Liam tilted his head, smirk fading into something sharper. He said, "And that's why it was so easy." Ethan staggered, the words slicing open every wound. His chest rose and fell in uneven waves, as his mind replayed every promise, now shattered. He wanted to strike, to make Liam feel even a fragment of his pain, but his fists refused to rise. Instead, his voice collapsed into a whisper, "You made me believe." Liam's eyes gleamed with satisfaction, a predator savoring the final cruelty. The distance between them felt like a chasm carved by betrayal, and no bridge could ever cross it again. The silence between shouts was unbearable. Ethan's voice dropped, trembling. "I gave you everything. My loyalty, my trust." Liam's tone turned venomous, "And I took it because I could." The words hit harder than fists. Ethan's chest tightened until it felt like he could not breathe. He remembered nights on rooftops, promises whispered under stars, futures planned with certainty. Now, Those promises felt like ashes in his mouth. His voice cracked again. You didn't just betray me. You betrayed every version of us. Liam's jaw clenched, but his eyes stayed cold, unreadable. The friendship that once defined Ethan now burned before him, destroyed by the very hands he once held in brotherhood. Ethan's fury finally erupted, his voice rising like thunder. You used me for everything. My trust, my love, my hope. He stepped closer, eyes burning, and for a fleeting second, Liam's smirk faltered. But then Liam sneered, you were too easy to break. The words slammed into Ethan like iron, stealing his breath. His hands shook violently, torn between striking out and collapsing to his knees. His chest heaved, the betrayal consuming every ounce of strength left in him. The weight of their bond, once sacred, now pressed like chains, suffocating. Ethan whispered, I don't even recognize you anymore. The words carried a finality, a funeral bell for the friendship now buried. The air hung heavy, every second dragging like eternity. The climax burned like wildfire. Ethan screamed, you were my brother. His voice cracked, the sound echoing into the night sky. Liam stepped closer, eyes blazing, and replied with venom, I was never yours. The words shattered everything left, standing inside Ethan. He staggered back, breath ragged, chest hollowed out. The memories of their years together rushed through him like daggers, each one now poisoned. Tears blurred his vision, but anger seared hot beneath. He whispered, broken but resolute, then we are finished. The silence that followed was heavier than screams, the court holding its breath as their friendship finally collapsed into ruin. Ethan turned away, each step weighted, while Liam's smirk lingered like the scar of betrayal, etched forever into his soul. The court emptied into silence, leaving Ethan alone with the ruins of his trust. His chest burned as though his heart had been torn out, yet he forced himself to walk. The echoes of Liam's last words replayed endlessly. Ethan whispered, I was never yours. He sank onto the curb outside, rain beginning to fall, streaking his cheeks alongside tears. Every memory now felt like a weight dragging him deeper, yet beneath the grief flickered something different, survival. Ethan clenched his fists and muttered, you won't break me again. The words were fragile but true. Though his body trembled, his spirit grasped at the first threads of strength. For the first time, he understood that the friendship he mourned no longer existed, and perhaps hadn't for a long time. The days after the confrontation blurred, but Ethan forced himself to keep moving. He walked streets heavy with memory, each corner carrying laughter, now turned sour. He passed the cafe where Liam once cheered him on, and for the first time he didn't stop. Ethan whispered, it's gone. His reflection in the glass was not the same boy who once believed in forever. He remembered nights when Liam's encouragement carried him, but now his own voice needed to take that place. His chest still ached, but step by step, the weight lifted. Betrayal had carved deep scars, yet those scars promised he could heal. You don't own me anymore, he whispered into the wind, and for once he believed it. Ethan returned to the rooftop where years ago Liam had once promised, I'll always be here. Now, the space was hollow, filled only with echoes. Ethan sat cross-legged, staring out at the city lights that blinked like distant stars. He whispered, you're not here anymore. The words floated into the night, swallowed by silence. Yet instead of breaking, they steadied him. The rooftop was no longer theirs, it was his. He remembered how Liam's presence once shielded him from loneliness, but tonight, Ethan faced the emptiness alone and survived it. His chest tightened, but in that ache, he found strength. For the first time, he realized the bond had not defined him. He had defined it. And now he could redefine himself without Liam. Claire crossed paths with Ethan weeks later, her expression uncertain. She asked, are you okay? Ethan hesitated, then gave the faintest smile. I will be. Her eyes softened, guilt shimmering within, but Ethan shook his head gently. Don't blame yourself. The words surprised him, for they carried no bitterness, only weary strength. He no longer looked for answers in her face or Liam's shadow. Instead, he let the silence linger, not as a wound, but as release. Claire's presence reminded him of what had been taken, yet also of what remained, his ability to rise. As she walked away, Ethan felt the weight shift. Pain lingered, but it no longer owned him. The final step came when Ethan stood in front of the mirror, facing the reflection of a man reshaped by pain. His eyes were red, but steadier than before. He whispered, "I survived you." The words carried the weight of truth, not anger. Behind the scars lay resilience, carved into his bones. He remembered every wound, every betrayal, every silence, yet they no longer chained him. Liam's shadow would follow him always, but only as a reminder of how strong he had become. Ethan lifted his chin, shoulders firm. The friendship was dead, but Ethan was not. He whispered again, firmer this time, "You don't define me." His reflection nodded back, and for the first time in years, he felt free. Weeks later, Ethan walked the old neighborhood, every street carrying shadows of a friendship turned poison. He passed the park where he and Liam once built dreams from nothing. Ethan said softly, "It was supposed to last forever." His voice carried no rage, only exhaustion. The laughter that once defined these places was gone, replaced by silence heavy as stone. Each corner, each memory, reminded him not just of what was lost, but of who Liam chose to become. Ethan's chest ached, but beneath it burned a strange peace. He no longer begged for answers. He whispered, "You chose betrayal. I choose survival." The streets no longer belonged to them, only to him. For the first time, the past felt like a scar, not a wound. One evening, Ethan sat with Claire on a bench, the air crisp with approaching winter. She looked at him with guilt still etched into her eyes, but Ethan shook his head gently. "Don't carry his choices," he whispered. Claire said softly, "He fooled us both." The words stung, but they also soothed, because for the first time Ethan realized he wasn't alone in the betrayal. Silence lingered, filled with the weight of what might have been, but also with the beginning of something different. Healing. Ethan said, "Well, move on, even if the scars stay." Claire gave a small nod, her presence steady beside him. The betrayal had destroyed the friendship, but it hadn't destroyed Ethan. That was Liam's failure, not his. Ethan found himself one night at the rooftop again, where promises once felt eternal. The skyline glittered, but he no longer searched for ghosts. He whispered into the cold air, "You're not my story anymore." His voice was steady, firm. Memories still pressed against him, heavy with what once was, but they no longer owned him. He remembered every lie, every knife Liam had twisted, but instead of breaking, they built armor around him. Ethan muttered, "I'll carry the scars, but they'll carry me forward." His heart still ached, but the ache no longer controlled him. For the first time, he looked at the horizon and saw not loss, but possibility. Liam's shadow lingered in Ethan's dreams, but it no longer haunted him. One night, he stood before their old photo album, pages worn with years of touch. He stared at the smiles frozen in time, the illusion of loyalty. Ethan whispered, "I don't hate you. I hate who you became." The distinction mattered, though the pain was the same. He closed the book with finality, the sound like a door locking. Every page was a ghost, but he no longer felt bound to them. He whispered again, firmer this time, "You're the past. I'm still here." The room felt lighter, as though the weight of betrayal had finally lifted, leaving only scars that no longer bled. The final scar revealed itself in words Ethan whispered alone, words sharper than screams. Standing beneath a streetlight, breath fogging in the night air, he muttered, "They didn't just betray me. They betrayed every version of us we could have been." His voice cracked, but it carried a strength born from pain. The line echoed into the still night, a confession and a release. Ethan's eyes glistened, but no tears fell. The betrayal would remain, carved into his bones, but it no longer defined him. It defined Liam. Ethan stepped forward, leaving the light behind, walking into darkness not as loss, but as survival. The friendship was dead, but Ethan's spirit lived, scarred yet unbroken.